5.
The Radio Wammo Breakfast.
Indeed, and joining us now, talking astronomy stuff, it is amateur astronomy enthusiast, care of the Stardome Observatory, Dylan Storey. G'day there, Dylan.
Morning, Wammo. Morning, listeners.
So, staring into the night sky once again for another weekend, but specifically looking at the final space shuttle mission. I was always very sad to hear that they were going to be putting the space shuttles to bed, but it's been delayed, Dylan.
Yeah, well, it's already been delayed for a few weeks because of technical faults. They sort of don't take any chances with these machines. There's so much going on when they go into the upper atmosphere that there's been all these tiny little, like a voltage drop on some relay somewhere.
Yeah.
So they finally got all the technical problems sorted out, cleared for launch, and it's raining.
Oh.
So they can't launch it.
When was it due to launch?
It was a couple of weeks ago.
Oh.
But
and it's the final mission.
It's Space Shuttle Discovery's final mission. So Atlantis and Endeavour, I believe, still have a mission left.
Okay.
So it's trying to. Its sort of goal is to get all the heavy stuff up to the International Space Station to get that in sustainable condition before the shuttles retire, because they're far bigger than the other craft that go up. The main other craft that go up to the space station are the Russian Soyuz craft, which are much smaller. They can't take anywhere near the weight that the shuttles can. They would take whole modules up to the space station. So they're kind of rushing to get everything it needs up there to make it sustainable.
I mean, what do the Russian machines look like? Because everyone knows what the space shuttle looks like. It looks more like a traditional aircraft. But what did the Russian things look like? More like a rocket? Is that right?
How would you describe them? They look like something you'd attach to a vacuum cleaner or something. They're sort of like a
vacuum cleaner attachment. I like that.
Yeah, like a pod with a sort of funnely bit off the end.
Ah, okay.
There's one permanently docked to the International Space Station in case anything goes wrong, and it's kind of like it's called their lifeboat. Problem is that it's not big enough to take all the astronauts back, so there'd be a pretty serious game of rock scissors paper going on.
I can imagine because there's a few of them that go on the space shuttle, isn't there? There's 6 or 7.
Yeah, it can take 5 to 7, but it's taken up to 8. Looks like 6 on this mission.
Yeah,
or 7.
But what I find bizarre about this whole situation of decommissioning the space shuttles, and I guess fair enough because they're quite old, but I mean basically nothing on them is that old because they're always getting refurbished and everything. But the fact that there is no replacement, the Americans haven't come up with another kind of vehicle.
No, they're sort of plagued by various funding cuts and organisational errors or whatever. But no, they don't have a replacement. So they're kind of NASA's relying on the international community, but it is an international space station, so it will still be serviceable. It's just nothing quite as robust as the space shuttles. And yeah, they in theory they're not that old, but when you see a photo of the cabin, it's amazing how technology has changed since these things were built. At Stardome, they've actually got a 360-degree panoramic slide of the inside of the space shuttle. So it's basically, you've got the hemispherical screen, and it's like a camera's taken a picture with all around. So then you can scroll the picture around. You can see you can basically take a virtual trip around the cockpit of the space station, which is amazing in itself. But what you can't see is not a whole lot of digital screen readouts and things. You can see a whole lot of dials and sort of analog things that you turn around to get the numbers and
old school.
That was the technology of the time, though, and that's what took these things into space. And even though they're being upgraded, that's the core technology of it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I guess that in some ways you do want to keep them a little bit still simple, because the more complicated you make them, the more things that can go wrong.
Yeah, but I don't think they've got the capacity for all the digital redundancy systems and everything that can sort of be compatible with the new technology that's going in. So, plus of course the hardware, all the metal inside is getting stressed and hardened and starting to crack.
Yeah. Okay. So when can we expect launch of Discovery? Do you know?
Well, they put it off. It was supposed to be 2:00 this morning, our time. They put it off for another 24 hours. And sort of see how it goes. So very soon.
And of course, if you're up when it's happening, you can always watch NASA TV and watch it live, which I always find quite fascinating.
If you've got good broadband, yeah.
Yeah. Dylan, let's now talk about a comet. Why are we talking about Comet Hartley?
Well, I mentioned it last week. It's a comment out there that this probe is being sent to fly by, and for anyone looking on the video stream, Wammo's now got the picture of it up. So the flyby happened of Comet Hartley last night, and it took this close-up picture.
Yeah.
And anyone who can see it now or wants to look at it on the internet later, it looks very much like an exploding peanut. A peanut with things being blasted off it.
Yeah.
So there's sort of two lobes there, I guess you could say. So one of the things that they wanted to confirm with this was that they knew for a while that it was of two separate parts, but they weren't sure if it was just two parts touching each other, as comets can be, sort of stuck to each other with gravity, or one object. So something this flyby has confirmed that it is one object. So then that sort of raises all sorts of questions. How did it come to look like a peanut? What are the forces involved? What sort of material is it putting out, and things like that?
I mean, someone like me who doesn't know much about anything like this at all would just say, well, originally when it broke off from whatever it broke off, it just broke off in that particular shape.
There's the thing about comets, though. They probably didn't break off from something. They're probably the very primordial things of the solar system. So they're just condensed bits of matter left over from the gas cloud which the solar system formed from. That's why they're so interesting to study, is because they are so old, and so they're sort of like the naked material of the solar system.
So they're kind of like a gallstone.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
And that they're formed from, stuff.
They're stellar gallstones.
Yeah. And sometimes they act a bit like that. They play up a little bit. Sometimes they collide with things, and they cause pain and hardship.
They do. They cause meteor showers, and this one's actually has possibly caused a meteor shower on Earth just from its passing. The debris left over from its tail, the stuff that's been blasted off from the sun. Yeah, they can cause a bit of mischief. But the thing, I think the conclusion that would be drawn from this photo is that they were two separate objects which collided or came together under gravity sometime in the past, and gravity has actually fused them together. So they're sort of two objects in the process of becoming one.
Oh, isn't that nice? It's so poetic and lovely. You could write a song about that.
Two becoming one.
Well, in the context of a comet. In fact, that's your challenge. Should you so choose to accept Dylan's story before next week,
write a comet
come
song.
up with a comet song. The Comet Hartley song.
I'll see what I can come up with. It probably won't contain the line, two becoming one.
Why not? Excellent. Hey, I recommend people head to the Stardome in Auckland City to check out that 360 view of the cockpit of the
at some stage. Yeah, there is an open day on Stardome this Sunday, so you can go along and have a look at all the stuff in the foyer.
Oh, the new foyer. Yep.
The new foyer displays. Talk to some of the presenters there about the inside of the space shuttle if you want, or peanut comets.
Brilliant. All right. Well, thanks for talking peanut comets with us here today, Dylan.
No worries.
We'll talk to you next week. Dylan Storey with his Dylan Storey's Astronomy, this time every Friday, or you can catch online once again up on YouTube and the